Hey there, bestie. I'm RaeAnne, your What to Read Next podcast host. Join me as we dive into exciting new reads that'll have you reaching for your TBR pile in no time. From group and mysteries to spicy romances, we'll explore it all and help you find your next favorite book. So grab a cup of tea, cozy it up, and let's discover some amazing reads together. Hi, RaeAnne. Welcome to What Your Next podcast.
Hi, I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I am so happy to chat with you. You've been, I have a group of friends who love your small town romances, and you were a big fan of yours since 2017.
Oh, wow.
Romance 2016. So it's you were early romance. I'm oh my gosh, these are my books. They're just my comfort small town romances, a little bit of Hallmark, a little bit of everything, just good stuff. So
I'm so happy to hear that.
yeah, there's some early episodes where we talked about your series, so I am very excited to chat with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us what kind of books do you tend to write and all the fun stuff.
Sure. Well, I'm RaeAnne Thayne. I have been writing for a long time. I sold my first book in 95.
Oh my gosh.
And I finished my 76th last week. So
Oh my gosh.
for a while. So lots of backlist books for people to read if they're just discovering me. But
Yeah.
I've been writing I've done kind of a little of everything in my career. I wrote quite a lot of romantic suspense when I was first starting out. So
Yep.
a lot of my early books, I did about 30 or 35 romantic suspense. But since then, I've been writing mostly community, feel good, small town. I call them uplit reads. They make you feel good at the end of them. There's not a lot of, there's drama and there's tension and everything, but there's not a lot of tragedy in my books. In the back history there is, but not on the page usually when I'm writing. I want people to close the book and feel like they had a happy experience and they like being in the community. I really try hard to write communities about people that care about each other, that work hard to make their world a better place and work together to solve problems and things like that. Those are the kind of stories I write. And of course, there's romance involved. I love writing romances. I'd say for about the last 5 or 6 years, I've been doing a little more women's fiction once a year, and then I do a Christmas romance. So my summer books are typically a little more women's fiction-y, on the border between romance and women's fiction. There's definitely romance in them, but there's a few deeper issues. It's relationships between sisters and mothers and children and things like that. So, but always a romance because that's my base and that's what I love.
That's your love. So talk to us about how to get started. So women's fiction, where your summer romances or summer women's fiction, your summer releases tend to be more women's fiction, entry point to romance a little bit. There's more depth in the issues. Where we just can get started? Do you have one or two entry points that you would say you should turn right here and then go down this rabbit hole, or?
Sure. Well, if you're looking for my women's fiction, they're really all standalone books. I had 5 of them that are set in the same place, but the characters don't intersect at all. So it's not like you have to read the first one to understand what's going on in the next one. It's just, they're just connected by geography because I created a place that I liked and I liked writing there. And I had a lot of story ideas for that place.
Yeah.
And so that's Cape Sanctuary book. So the first one of those, if you want them in order, it was the Cliff House. It was the Sea Glass Cottage. It was, I'm going to not get them right. Anyway, Summer at the Cape is one of them. The Path to Sunshine Cove is one of them. And then the Cafe at Beach End is one of them. And then this year I had a new one out. They can start there if they want. That's not related at all to Cape Sanctuary. It's set in a little fictional small town in Idaho, sort of roughly based on Sun Valley. It's called 15 Summers Later. If they want my strict romance kind of series, I have 2 main single title romances. I did my Haven Point and my Hope's Crossing series. And there's 7 books in Hope's Crossing that are kind of connected, especially the first 3. After that, it doesn't really matter what order you read them in, but I tend to tell people read the first 3 because the second and third build off of something that happened in the first one. And so it's good if people can read those. And then Hope's Crossing was a spinoff, or Haven Point was a spinoff of Hope's Crossing because I created this family in the last 4 books. And there was one brother who I needed to have somewhere distant for his story. And so he moved to this little town in Idaho, and I liked Idaho. I live in Utah. So I write a lot of books set around me, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, just because that's sort of what I know the most. And then my Christmas books, I have a Christmas book out this year that's called The December Market, which is my 75th book. So I'm really excited about it. And it is actually the second book in a series. And I would recommend, if people did not read my Christmas book last year, that they maybe try to pick that one up. It is coming out in mass market paperback again this year. So you can find it digitally. It's available all the time, but the trade paperback was out last year, and it is called Christmas at the Shelter Inn. And the book this year, The December Market, is the sister of the hero of the first book. So that she does appear, and she was the best friend of the heroine. So she does appear in the first book. So if you really want the full context of her story, you might want to read that one first. You won't be lost or anything if you just pick up The December Market, because it is, it's a standalone story, but you
Yeah.
might have better subtext if you read the first one.
Yeah, and the first one is she has to come back to she leaves town, comes back to town to help her sister who is pregnant and
Right.
basically has to take care of the inn like any other Sweeney holiday romance. Comes back to
Right.
town and it's like against my will. And it's like, oh, but everything is so wonderful here. You should stay
Right.
here.
And she kind of falls for her brother's best friend.
Yeah.
No, that's an old trope, one of my favorite tropes. And they were friends. I mean, she knew him before, but never looked at him romantically
Yeah.
until she comes back to town and sees everything through different eyes. And I loved writing that book because it's kind of one of my favorite tropes. Friends to Lovers is one of my absolute favorite, but it's also, she's been traveling. She couldn't wait to leave this little town in Idaho. And for the last 10 years, she's been traveling. She makes her job as a digital nomad. She's an editor, but she can work anywhere. So she travels all over and house sits and pet sits for people and things like that. So I love the idea of her coming back, coming home, trying to figure out this is actually what I'm looking for. I still love the travel part of it, but I love home too. And
Yeah.
I love writing that kind of story.
So what is it like to write Christmas books? Because I'm assuming you're not writing them during holiday season. You're writing them on the off season just to get ready. What's the process? Do you like listen to Christmas music? Do you watch some Hallmark movies? Or you're like, how do you get in the mood to
All of those things. So I actually am lucky enough that my writing cycle happens to be, I'm getting ready to start my next year's Christmas book right now.
okay.
So I will be writing it, at least doing the rough draft during the holiday season, which is perfect. And
Yeah.
then I'll have to wrap it up in the springtime. It'll be February or so before I'm done with it. So what I do, I put my Christmas tree up as soon as I start. So I'll be putting the Christmas tree in my office up probably next week when I'm traveling this week. And as soon as I get back, I'll be putting my Christmas tree up and getting ready to start writing Christmas. I do listen to Christmas music. I used to listen to music a lot when I write. And as my writing has evolved, I guess, and maybe as I've gotten older, I need to focus. And so music tends to distract me too much. So I actually still listen to music, but I listen to it has to be lo-fi with no words or anything. So that's what I listen to when I'm revising. When I'm writing, I need silence because I do a kind of hybrid dictation and writing. I dictate, but I look at it on the screen as I'm dictating, and then I'll type a thing that, if something else comes to me. So I have to have silence for that.
Yeah.
But to get in the mood, it really, because I've written lots of Christmas books, I love writing them. And it really feels like I'm slipping back into a comfortable zone for me to write a Christmas book. I think they fit very well with my voice because I tend to write about families and about community and about caring about each other, which is all the things that people love to think about at Christmas time. And so I seem to slip quite easily back into the Christmas zone when I'm writing one. And then I don't take the tree down until I'm done. So I won't take the tree down until February or March in my office till I'm finished doing it.
I love this. And so you're writing at least a couple books a year. So how do you process? Do you revise? You take time to revise one book and then while drafting, or how do you block it among that process? I'm just
Well,
curious.
so I usually am thinking about the next book as I'm wrapping up the previous book.
Okay.
The book I'm starting right now, I know the heroine and I've thought that part, but I don't
Yeah.
have anything else. So I'm
Oh my
starting.
gosh.
So I'm actually going to kind of take this week off. I just finished on Thursday of my last book.
Yeah.
So, and it was pretty intense and I had a lot of family stuff going on at the same time. So getting that done was like a miracle. It feels like, and
Yeah.
it's like a miracle that I got it done, but I will spend probably a week thinking about it and plotting it, trying to come up with a hero. I like to plot very much. If you want to know the process, I'm very much a plotter. And so I will have it pretty roughed out in terms of I pretty much know scene by scene what's going to happen. And I can change that as we go along. But I like to know that because it helps me have a roadmap for the book. And then when I sit down to write every day, I know, okay, this is what I got to do. I know whose point of view this scene is going to be. I know what what needs to happen for the story arc and the romance arc and things like that. And so I'm a very intensive plotter. I'm also very lucky enough that I plot with friends sometimes.
Yeah.
Usually one book a year I plot with friends, and we go to beach house in San Diego in the wintertime and
Yeah.
hang out and eat and talk and have a great
Yeah.
time, laugh, and help plot each other's books. So everybody brings an idea and we send the idea out to everybody ahead of time so they can look at it. And then they help us come up with different plots that we can do to move the story forward. So
Oh my
that's it.
gosh.
It's
I
really,
love
it's great. Anybody that's a writer, I really highly recommend it, especially, but I recommend that you get people that are kind of the same, writing the same kind of things, but maybe not exactly what you're writing. So
yeah.
like I write with a dear friend who writes more romantic comedy. So she helps me bring the comedy elements. I sort of help her with the more emotional. That's sort of my forte, is all the emotional intensity of the scenes. And then we've got a couple other friends that are so good at figuring out women's fiction and things like that.
Yeah.
And so it works really well if you get the
That's
right.
That's like a brilliant idea. I think it's also nice to have a community that you can bounce ideas and when you're stuck in the problem or the idea. Like sometimes, yes, sometimes the shower works and sometimes you just like sleep it up and so or go for a walk. But sometimes it's just having someone to just like send a voice note or call and be like, hey, here's that issue. Let's figure things out, and having that space of like an escape to go socialize and spend time with friends and help you. It's a work business. It's a
It,
work. Yeah.
it's so good. It really is. And it energizes all of us. I think we come back really excited from it. We couldn't do it during COVID. So we just did Zoom, and that's can be successful. I mean, if you're all spread out and you can't get together, we found it all really, really very helpful. But it's better if you're in person, because a lot of the fun happens at night when you're all done working. When we work really hard, we have 2 full days of plotting, and everybody gets half a day, and it's a lot of work, and we're tired at the end, but it's really fun to hang out and just talk about our lives and things like that. But I do recommend it just because I've written 75 books. At this point, I've written every story I ever wanted to tell. In order for me to keep bringing my reader something fresh and new and original, sometimes I need other perspectives from people who maybe have a different life experience than I do and they watch different shows than I do, or they have had something happen to them that's very different from me. And so it does help my books. I feel like it helps my books to be stronger than if I were
Yeah.
doing it on my own.
And can we expect for book 76? Like, I'm assuming this is the summer release. So
Yeah.
talk to us like if you give us a teaser so then we know, okay, we can go or are we gonna look forward next 2025?
So it's my longest book ever. I would
Oh my
say
gosh.
and it's kind of there's a dual story. It's not a dual timeline, but it's kind of a dual story. So it's about, basically the opening line is the day she died, Juniper, I can't remember last, Connolly had just finished firing her latest intern. So this woman has a cardiac arrest in her office, and she's brought back to life by this assistant that she was just firing in the middle of firing. And it turns out there's a secret between the two of them, which comes out really early in the book. So I can tell you they're half sisters. June doesn't know that they're half sisters. And so the other sister had gone there to meet her, to get to know her, to sort of find out. She finds out about midway through the book that her dad was this famous author that she loved. Her mother had loved this famous author, obviously, because she had a baby by him, but she didn't know. And so it's kind of a mystery about what tore those two lovers apart. And then these two sisters coming together. And then, of course, this woman dealing with the fact that she's got this congenital heart issue that she didn't know about. She's very healthy. She's an athlete. She didn't know that she had this heart rhythm issue. And so it's her dealing with that as well. So it's called The Lost Book of First Loves. And so they're looking for a manuscript. Their father had just died 6 months earlier, so she never got to meet him. But she thinks that he wrote this manuscript years ago. And so she's trying to find it, not knowing that it's about his relationship with her mother. So it's kind of
Oh my gosh. This is very exciting. I'm like, now I just want to be summer 2025.
I know. Yeah. Coming out I think in June. I don't know exactly the release date, but
Yes, it is so good. So be on the lookout. But you have 75 books for us to dive into in the backlist, which is a healthy backlist that gives you have small town, you got to run into suspense if you want to go to your earlier books. But then you have your women's fiction and your like nice little issues, and then your Christmas romances, which is perfect. So
But I do like to add the caveat to people who are just discovering me that my books are, I would say, I don't like the term, but they're on the sweet. There's not a lot of
Yeah.
intimacy in my stories, But my earlier books were not like that. They were a little spicier. I wouldn't say they were ever super spicy, but
Yep.
if you only want nothing like that, then you need to read my later books. If you're
Yep.
okay with that, you can
Yeah.
read some of my later books.
That's even perfect. So thank you for making that comment. Because I think it's important to, so it depends on their reader, depends on their taste, depends on where they are. Like I personally skip most of the sex scenes. And that's just like my personal preference. But sometimes some readers are very passionate about it. Some readers are very passionate about having them. So it is all good. So you have a spectrum there to offer.
Right. And I get comments on both sides. I get comments from people who say, I love that I don't have to skip over a lot in your
Yeah.
books. And other people who say, why I don't need more sex, I needed more spiciness. But I was never sensual, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, there's tension definitely between the hero and the heroine. It's always there underlying the story, but I like to keep the door closed.
It is all good. So RaeAnne, tell us where you find you online.
My website is RaeAnneThayne.com. And so it's Rae with an E, Anne with an E, RaeAnne, and then THAYNE.com. And then I'm on Facebook. I'm most active on Facebook or Instagram. I don't do a lot on TikTok. I probably need to do more there, but I kind of feel like it's a little younger crowd than maybe are reading my books, but hopefully they will discover my books at some point, I hope. But that's the main thing. And I also have a book group. So I interview other author friends once a month. And so I have a book group. It's called RaeAnne Thayne's Book Group.
Love this. And this is in Facebook, the book group?
Yeah, it's a Facebook group. Yeah, there's not a lot of emails. I post usually about who we're interviewing, tell them what the book is, and then I do a Facebook Live once a month where I'm interviewing someone.
Awesome. Thank you, RaeAnne, for being in the show.
That was a delight. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thanks for joining me on this episode of the What to Read Next podcast. If you enjoy our bookish conversations and want more recommendations, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, head on over to the What to Read Next blog for a list of books mentioned in today's show. Happy reading!